What if your entire life could change? Not in a few years, not someday, but now. What if the shift you've been praying for, grinding for, waiting for, was buried not in some distant opportunity, but in the truths you've refused to face? Because let me tell you something few men will ever hear. Your life will only rise as far as your truth can carry it. And truth, real truth, isn't soft. It isn't inspiring. It doesn't pat you on the back and whisper, "You're doing fine." It slaps you in the face. It breaks the illusion. It drags you into the mirror and forces you to look at the version of yourself you've been avoiding. And only then does it hand you the key. The key to freedom, the key to power. The key to a life without fear, without drift, without apology. But here's the catch. That key is forged from pain, from pressure, from decisions that most men are too afraid to make. That's why most stay average. That's why they drift. That's why they die with their potential still locked inside them, because they weren't willing to face the truth that would have set them free. But if you are still here, still listening, there's something inside you that wants more. Not more comfort, not more praise, more power, more direction, more fire. And I promise you, if you listen to this entire message, every word, every truth, not as entertainment, but as instruction, your life will not look the same when it ends. Because this is not a speech. This is your reckoning. You will not walk away from this untouched. You will not listen casually and return to who you were. You will either rise or you will retreat. There is no middle ground. These are not tips. They are laws. These are not suggestions. They are standards. And every single one of them, all 10, must be mastered if you want to build a life that demands respect, creates wealth, and commands your future. You can't skip one. You can't skim the surface. Because the moment you ignore even one of these truths is the moment the drift returns, the doubt returns, the weakness returns, and your potential, once again, becomes just a theory instead of a force. So I say this to you now, directly, clearly, without hesitation. If you want to change your life, don't skip this. Listen to all of it. Because somewhere in these next 10 truths, maybe the first one, maybe the last one, is the key you've been searching for. And if you turn this off before you find it, you will never know what you could have become. So lean in. This is the conversation that could end the war inside you. Let it hit, let it hurt, let it reconstruct the way you move through the world. Because this is not motivation. This is the truth, and truth changes everything. Truth 1, no one is coming to save you. There comes a moment in every man's life when he must stop looking outside himself for the rescue. A moment when he must stop waiting for a sign, a mentor, a miracle, a woman, a friend, a job, or even God to step in and carry the weight for him. That moment is now. Because the harsh truth, the first truth that every man must face is this. No one is coming to save you. Not your parents, not your boss, not your partner, not your government, and not even your future self. You've been taught to believe that things will eventually work themselves out, that life has a plan, that if you just keep going, something will come along and fix everything. But how long have you been waiting for that moment? And where has waiting gotten you? The longer you wait, the more powerless you become. You outsource your destiny. You sit still while your dreams wither in the background. You hand over your future to time, to luck, to chance, and then you wonder why your life feels stagnant, why you're stuck, why your fire is gone. You keep hoping someone will hand you clarity, motivation, strength. But the truth is this. No one can give you what you refuse to give yourself. You want discipline? Build it. You want confidence? Earn it. You want freedom? Create it. You want purpose? Forge it in the dark when no one's watching, when the applause is gone and the pressure is heavy. Because until you decide to take full responsibility for everything in your life, yes, even the things that weren't your fault, you will remain a slave to your circumstances. You'll blame the economy. You'll blame your upbringing. You'll blame the people who didn't believe in you. You'll blame the timing. And all of it will sound logical, reasonable, even true. But here's the brutal reality. Blame is the language of the powerless. And as long as you use it, you will never be free. Power begins with ownership. Ownership of your thoughts, your decisions, your reactions, your standards, your work ethic, your results. The moment you take extreme ownership, total, ruthless responsibility, is the moment everything begins to change. Because when you stop waiting, you start creating. When you stop hoping, you start building. When you stop needing someone else to show up, you become the man who shows up. Do you know what separates the great men of history from the masses who followed them? It wasn't their resources, it wasn't their talent, it was their refusal to wait for anyone to give them permission. Andrew Carnegie didn't wait to be rescued. He worked, he watched, he prepared, and when the opportunity came, he moved so decisively that the world never caught up. Henry Ford didn't wait for people to believe in his vision. He believed in it. That was enough, and the world followed. Thomas Edison didn't wait to feel ready. He failed 10,000 times and kept going anyway. These men were not born extraordinary. They became extraordinary the moment they stopped waiting. So the question is simple. When will you stop waiting? How many more months will you sit still convincing yourself the time isn't right? How many more years will you whisper, maybe someday? Let me be clear. Someday doesn't exist. There is only today, and today no one is coming. So you must become the one who does. You want to win? Then rise. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now pick up your responsibility like armor. Stand tall in your mess, your pain, your confusion, and move. Because the man who stops waiting becomes the man the world cannot ignore. Truth 2, discipline over emotion. There is a truth I have come to know with certainty. The man who is ruled by his emotions will never rule over his destiny. He may have ambition, he may possess dreams as vivid as fire, but if he allows his feelings to dictate his action or inaction, he will forever be tossed about like a ship without a rudder, drifting wherever the winds of circumstance may blow. I say this to you plainly. If you want to build a life of purpose, of wealth, of unshakable success, you must choose discipline over emotion. That is the second harsh truth every man must accept. Most men are prisoners of how they feel. They act when they're inspired and stall when they're not. They start strong when motivation is high, only to fade when fatigue or frustration settles in. But I will tell you what I have seen among the successful, the builders, the creators, the giants of industry and thought. They did not wait for a good mood to make a move. They moved anyway. They acted regardless. Let me illustrate this with a lesson from my time with Thomas Edison. I have seen that man rise before the sun, driven not by how he felt that morning, but by what he had decided the night before. He understood the power of discipline. When the experiments failed, one after another, he did not crumble. He did not delay. He returned to his work over and over, because the emotion of frustration held no weight next to the discipline of vision. That is mastery. That is what separates the man who tries from the man who builds. Understand this, emotion is temporary. It is fleeting. It shifts with the weather, with the news, with the opinions of others. But discipline, true discipline, is eternal. It is the backbone of consistency, and consistency is the mother of transformation. If you only act when you feel like it, you will never finish what you start. Your goals will become ghosts, haunting you with the echo of what could have been. And here is the deception. Your feelings will masquerade as reason. They will whisper to you, you need rest, when in truth, you need resolve. They will say, now isn't the right time, when now is the only time. They will seduce you with comfort, convenience, and 1,000 rational lies, all meant to keep you exactly where you are. But a man of purpose does not ask his feelings for permission to pursue greatness. He commands himself forward. You may ask, how do I do this? How do I build such discipline when I have always followed emotion? And I will answer you as I would a student standing at the foot of the mountain. You must begin with small acts of defiance. Defiance against the inner weakness. When your mind says sleep, you rise. When it says delay, you begin. When it says quit, you press on. These are not grand gestures. They are small, invisible victories. But together, they build a man who cannot be broken. Andrew Carnegie did not build an empire because he always felt good. He built because he had committed to build. Whether rain or shine, support or solitude, he moved. He showed up. He honored the commitment he made to his future self, not the fleeting emotion of the present. This is what I teach those who come to me searching for success. Discipline is not harshness. It is not cruelty. It is love. Love for your higher self. It is the highest form of respect. It says, I believe in the man I am becoming more than I believe in the weakness I feel now. Do not misunderstand me. Emotions have their place. They can be teachers. They can be signals. But they are not kings. They must be acknowledged, but never obeyed. The man who gives emotions the throne sacrifices his future for a fleeting feeling. The man who installs discipline as his ruler walks steadily toward his definite purpose, no matter how stormy the sea becomes. So I ask you, what has emotion cost you? How many dreams have you delayed because you didn't feel ready? How many moments of greatness did you let pass because you didn't feel like showing up? And now, more importantly, what could you build if you no longer waited for motivation, but trained discipline like a muscle? How would your life transform if you became the man who moves without needing to feel inspired, the man who shows up without applause, the man who honors his commitments like sacred vows? That is who you must become. So say this to yourself, not once, but daily. I am not my feelings, I am my decisions. I do not follow moods. I follow purpose. I do not wait to feel ready. I act, and readiness follows. Repeat it until it becomes your truth. And when you do, you will have mastered the second truth, the truth that will give you command over your day, your mind, your destiny. Discipline over emotion, not once, always. Truth 3. Most men are drifting. Don't be one of them. If you don't control your thoughts, someone else already is. There is a disease plaguing the minds of most men, a silent decay that doesn't arrive with a roar, but with a whisper. It is not a sickness of the body, nor even of the soul, but of the will. This disease is called drifting. And unless a man is vigilant, it will take root in his life without his notice and consume every ounce of potential he ever possessed. A drifter is not a man of action. He is a man of reaction. He does not rise in the morning with purpose. He waits to be told what the day demands. He does not walk forward with intention. He wanders in uncertainty, hoping the winds of fate might be kind to him today. But understand this, fate does not favor the idle. Life, in its truest form, bows only to the man who commands it. Now let me make this very plain. There are only two kinds of men in this world, drifters and non-drifters. And the chasm between the two is as wide as that between poverty and prosperity, mediocrity and mastery, life and death. The drifter is a man who has surrendered the steering wheel of his mind. He wakes up with no definite aim, no vision, no chief desire pulling him toward a greater existence. He moves with no direction. He works not to build, but simply to exist. He waits. He delays. He hopes things get better without ever lifting a hand to change them. His days blur together. His ambitions remain locked in fantasy. And at night, as he rests his weary body, he wonders why he feels so unfulfilled. The non-drifter, however, is a force. He is not swayed by the opinions of others. He does not require external validation to take action. His mind is sharp and focused. His days are dictated by definiteness of purpose. He lives by design, not default. He does not wait for permission. He commands his reality. And because of that, life bends to his will. Not always at once, not always without hardship, but always in time. Now let us go deeper. Drifting, as I described in Outwitting the Devil, is not a conscious decision. It is the result of a man's failure to make a decision. It is the default state of an undisciplined, unfocused mind. It is the consequence of failing to seize control of one's own thinking. And here lies the most terrifying part. Once a man becomes a drifter, the devil himself takes up residence in his mind. Not in some mythical sense, but in the form of fear, doubt, distraction, and dependency. A man who drifts has no defenses. His thoughts are not his own. His desires are shaped by what he sees, not by what he believes. His will is softened, his courage is diluted, and his identity is stolen. He is the walking dead, a shell of potential, buried beneath procrastination and regret. And I tell you now, the world is full of drifters. They are the majority. They live among us. They work beside us. They speak with confidence, but inside they tremble. They post their goals for the world to see, but inside they are adrift with no anchor. And one day they will be buried, not by death, but by dreams unfulfilled. But you are not here to drift. You are here to command. You are here to rise. You are here to decide. How then does a man become a non-drifter? How does he stop this slow suicide of the soul? It begins with definiteness of purpose, a clear aim, a vision so strong it burns through the fog of uncertainty. You must decide, what do you want? Not vaguely, but precisely. Not someday, but now. You must write it down. You must see it. You must breathe life into it every day until it becomes the compass by which you make every decision. But purpose alone is not enough. You must pair your purpose with autosuggestion, the daily deliberate imprinting of thoughts and beliefs that support your aim. Every morning before the distractions of the world arrive, you must repeat aloud what you intend to become. Speak it with conviction. Visualize it with clarity. See the man you are becoming and affirm his existence until your subconscious begins to believe it and your actions align accordingly. Say it with me. I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I do not drift. Say it again, louder, with more force. I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I do not drift. This is not merely affirmation. This is transformation, because every time you speak those words, you drive a new stake into the ground of your identity. You draw a line in the sand between the old self and the new, between the drifter and the builder. And as this truth becomes part of your daily rhythm, something powerful begins to happen. Your thoughts sharpen. Your vision strengthens. You begin to notice the drift in others, the aimlessness, the hesitation, the comfort disguised as confidence. And you no longer envy their ease. You pity it, because you know where that road leads. It leads to the grave of what could have been. But the non-drifter, he rises. He does not need the world to cheer him on. He cheers himself on. He does not wait for inspiration. He generates it. He uses autosuggestion like a sword. He wields visualization like a hammer. Every morning he sees the man he is building. Every night he reflects on how closely he lived in alignment with that man. And if he falls short, he does not despair. He recalibrates. He learns. He adapts. But he never drifts. Drifting is easy. It takes no effort to exist, but to live, to build, to create, to become something that moves the world, this requires vigilance. It requires a mind ruled by principle, not preference. It requires that you destroy the option of autopilot and grab the wheel with both hands every single day. And this is where most men fail. They want the results of the non-drifter without the discipline. They want the life of focus without the cost of intention. But there is no shortcut here. There is only the narrow path, and only those who walk it with unshakable purpose will reach the summit. So let me leave you with this warning. Drifting is death in slow motion. Every day you drift, you lose a piece of your soul. Every moment you live without purpose, you strengthen the grip of fear on your mind. But every day you choose to lead, to build, to declare who you are and where you are going, you drive fear further into the shadows. Say it again. I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I do not drift. Repeat it. Live it. Become it. You were not created to drift. You were created to dominate. But domination does not come to the passive. It comes to the focused, the disciplined, the man who has decided once and for all that he will write his own story and burn every page of the one the world tried to assign him. This is your time. Do not drift. Decide. And then walk forward like a man who knows that nothing, not fear, not failure, not time, can stop the soul that refuses to drift. Truth 4, your mind is either a slave or a master. You either command your thoughts or you are ruled by them. There is no neutral ground when it comes to the human mind. It is either your greatest asset or your greatest liability. Either you have trained it to obey you, to serve you, to execute your vision with precision, or you have left it vulnerable to outside influences, to fear, to drift, to decay. And make no mistake, if you are not actively mastering your mind, then your mind is mastering you. Slowly, subtly, silently, it becomes your master. And if that master is not guided by purpose, by intention, by discipline, it becomes a tyrant. The mind is not static. It is not a stone to be picked up and put down at will. It is alive. It is electric. It is always working, always processing, always creating or destroying. It never sleeps. It feeds on thoughts, on what you permit to dwell within it. And if you do not choose those thoughts carefully, they will be chosen for you. The newspapers will feed you fear. The voices of weaker men will feed you doubt. The failures of your past will feed you shame. And unless you fight back with intention, those thoughts will become your beliefs. And your beliefs in time will become your reality. The man who masters his mind does not allow such things. He takes control at the first spark. He recognizes the first whisper of defeat, of hesitation, of drift, and he rejects it with force. He knows that thoughts are seeds, and he only plants what he is willing to harvest. He knows that every repeated thought becomes easier to think, every belief repeated becomes harder to break. And so he becomes ruthless with repetition, ruthless with discipline, ruthless with what he allows to linger in his mental soil. This is not poetry. This is science. Autosuggestion is the tool. Repetition is the method. Identity is the aim. You must repeat who you are becoming until your mind no longer permits contradiction. You must declare your aim with such clarity, such consistency, that no stray thought can pull you off course. I am focused. I am deliberate. I control my thoughts. I do not drift. Say it often. Say it with emotion. Say it until it becomes your mental default. Understand this well. Your mind does not respond to logic. It responds to emotion, repetition, and belief. Henry Ford knew this. Before the Model T ever hit the road, he saw it in his mind. He repeated the vision to himself until no one could talk him out of it. His engineers told him it couldn't be done. He told them to build it anyway. He trained his mind so fiercely that the doubts of others became background noise. That is what mental mastery looks like. It's not silence, it's dominance. Thomas Edison operated the same way. He failed thousands of times in pursuit of the electric light, but not once did he entertain the idea of true failure. Because his mind was fixed on a vision, and he refused to permit thoughts of defeat. He had trained himself not to react emotionally, but to respond intelligently. Not to fall apart under pressure, but to sharpen under it. He didn't allow his mind to drift. He forced it to obey. That is the difference between a man who creates and a man who reacts. And what of you? Where does your mind stand? Is it your instrument or your cage? When you wake up in the morning, who decides how you think? When stress hits, who is in control? When fear rises, who commands the response? These questions must be answered daily, not with words, but with action. To master your mind, you must begin with daily affirmations rooted in identity, not vague statements, but powerful declarations that reinforce who you are and who you are becoming. These are not suggestions, these are orders. I do not obey fear. I am not controlled by my emotions. My thoughts serve me. I am the master of my mind. Speak them aloud. Write them down. Repeat them until they shape the very rhythm of your mind. Every morning you must return to this mental workshop. Just as Carnegie meditated daily on his definite aim, just as Ford repeated his vision of the automobile, just as Edison declared his inventions into existence, you must return to the throne of your mind and reclaim your rule. One day without this discipline and the weeds begin to grow. 2 days and the weeds become thorns. 3 days and you no longer recognize the landscape. Do not let that happen. Mastery requires maintenance. You must not simply train your thoughts. You must police them. You must inspect them. You must catch the whisper of laziness, of apathy, of uncertainty, and replace it with strength. Do not let your mind wander toward failure. Do not indulge the fantasy of weakness. You have no time for that. Every thought must serve your mission. Every thought must earn its place. And when the thoughts come, and they will, that say, you are not ready, you are not good enough, this will not work, you respond with force. That is not who I am. That is not my identity. I do not think that way anymore. You disrupt the pattern. You override it. You return to your aim, to your purpose, to your new programming. This is not spiritual fluff. This is tactical warfare. Your mind is a battlefield. Win or lose, it all happens here first. There are no shortcuts. This truth is harsh, and it is absolute. If you do not command your thoughts, they will command you. And they will not take you where you want to go. They will take you to your lowest programming, your most familiar fear, your oldest excuses. They will make your life small, not because you are incapable, but because you allowed your mind to wander. But you are here now. You are listening because something in you is done living below your standard. Something in you knows that everything, your habits, your relationships, your wealth, your health, flows downstream from your mental control. So let this be the beginning of your new standard. Let this be the moment you refuse to be ruled by thought and instead become the ruler of thought. Say this now. I do not obey fear. I do not follow my emotions. I control my thoughts. I train my mind. I command my reality. Let those words hit your core. Let them be your anchor. Let them be your weapon when weakness speaks, because weakness will speak, and when it does, you must speak louder. Remember this, your mind is not the enemy. It is the most powerful tool you will ever possess. But like any tool, it must be used correctly, or it becomes dangerous. Like any fire, it must be contained, or it will burn everything in its path. Use it, master it, command it, or it will command you. This is the fourth truth. And if you can live it, not just know it, but truly live it, then the world becomes yours. Not through luck, but through law. The law of thought, the law of belief, the law of repetition. You are not your thoughts. You are their commander. And the man who commands his mind commands his destiny. Let's continue. Truth 5. Life will test you repeatedly. Build resilience. Every test is a question, will you fold or will you rise? There is no man of greatness who has not first been forged by resistance. Life, as a silent and relentless teacher, does not reward the one who starts strong. It rewards the one who refuses to stop. And this is the fifth truth every man must accept. Life will test you again and again until your resilience becomes stronger than your excuses. You see, adversity is not the exception. It is the curriculum. Every hardship, every delay, every moment of silence is a chapter in your personal transformation. And it is not just hardship for hardship's sake. It is carefully designed to uncover what you truly believe, to test the strength of your desire, and to burn away the parts of you that are not built to last. Look around you. Every man you admire was built through fire. Carnegie did not rise to power because the world opened its arms. He was poor, underestimated, and overlooked. But he used every test as fuel. He endured long days, little pay, and even less recognition. But each moment of strain built something inside him. Fortitude, vision, strength, not the kind of strength that roars in comfort, but the kind that does not flinch in the storm. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times on the path to the electric light. Each failure was not a defeat. It was a lesson, a refinement, a test of his faith in himself. He did not crumble beneath the weight of delay. He became stronger under it. He didn't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" He asked, "What must I become to endure this?" And that is the shift every man must make. You cannot pray for the test to end. You must train to rise through it, because the tests will not stop. Life does not test you once, it tests you repeatedly. It wants to see if your commitment was emotion or decision, if your mission was convenience or conviction. Most men, when tested, look for the nearest exit. They ask for a lighter load instead of a stronger back. They let one setback break their spirit. They stop at the first wall. They misinterpret resistance as a sign to turn around. But the truth is, resistance is not the end of the road. It is the entrance to the path that few dare walk. The man who becomes resilient does not ask life to ease up. He asks himself to level up. He sees the test and says, "Good, I'm being prepared." He doesn't hide from the strain, he leans into it. And with every blow, he becomes less breakable. With every silence, he becomes more self-sufficient. With every rejection, he becomes more determined. You must decide who you want to be when the test comes. And make no mistake, it will come. The silence, the failure, the fatigue, the betrayal, the doubt, all of it will visit you like waves hitting the shore again and again until your foundation is either shattered or made unshakable. But here's what life never tells you. The test is not there to stop you. It's there to show you what you're made of. The delay is not punishment, it is preparation. The silence is not rejection, it is refinement. And the struggle is not there to break you. It's there to make you immune to being broken. Every time you pass a test, you earn something greater than a result. You earn the identity of a man who does not fold. And that identity, once built, cannot be taken from you. Not by failure, not by fear, not even by time. Because resilience is not just something you feel. It is something you become. So how do you build it? You start small. You do one hard thing every day. You finish what you start. You keep your word, even when it costs you comfort. You train when you don't feel like it. You speak truth when silence would be easier. These are the daily bricks of resilience. Stack them enough times, and you build a fortress that life's storms cannot penetrate. And when the big tests come, and they will, you do not shrink. You return to your training. You remember that your identity was forged in discomfort. And you face the test like a warrior faces battle, not with fear, but with fire. Say this now: I do not run from trials. I rise through them. I am not waiting for the test to end. I am training to pass it. Because the truth is simple, my friend. The test is not asking if you're good enough. It's asking if you're committed enough, not if you're talented enough, if you're disciplined enough, not if you want it, but if you're willing to endure for it. Do not be surprised by the trials. Expect them, welcome them, smile when they arrive, because every time you pass one, the man you become is stronger, sharper, more unstoppable than the one before. And here is what life will never announce. The test is the breakthrough. Most men give up right before the reward. They walk away when they were one step from the gold. They choose comfort when they were seconds from clarity. They surrender because they never learned to suffer on purpose. But you are not like most men. You were not built to fold. You were not built to drift. You were built to endure. And that endurance will become your superpower. That grit will make you unstoppable. That refusal to retreat, that is what makes legends. Let this be your reminder. There is no greatness without the test. There is no crown without the cross. There is no evolution without exposure to pressure. And the harder the test, the higher the calling. So next time life presses you, When the deal falls through, when the dream delays, when the plan breaks apart, say this: I was made for this. Say it until the pain bends to your belief. Say it until your mind is conditioned to stand tall when most men sit down. And this is the fire. And the fire does not burn the man who is ready. It reveals him. It purifies him. It anoints him. So take the hit. Stand tall. Keep walking. And when the test comes again, meet it with a smile. Not because you enjoy the pain, but because you recognize the purpose. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Say it one last time. Life does not break me. It builds me. I was made to rise. I passed the test. Let's move forward. Truth 6, fear will always exist, but it never gets to lead. Feel the fear, then walk forward anyway. There is a lie that keeps more men frozen than any obstacle, more dreams buried than any failure, more potential smothered than any defeat. And it is this: that fear must be conquered before you can move. But let me tell you the truth, plainly and without comfort. Fear will never leave. It is not a mountain you climb once and then forget. It is not a dragon you slay and then bury. Fear is a permanent companion on the path of every man who chooses growth. It walks beside you. It whispers. It waits. And it never disappears. But here's the part most men never realize. It doesn't have to. Because fear's presence is not the problem. Its leadership is. Understand this now and never forget it. You will feel fear, but you do not have to obey it. You do not have to hand it the wheel. You do not have to let it guide your steps. Fear can sit in the passenger seat. Let it watch. Let it scream, but it doesn't get to steer. The greatest men I ever studied, Edison, Ford, Lincoln, they were not fearless. They were afraid, just like you. They were afraid of ridicule, failure, rejection, collapse. But they did not let fear decide who they were. Edison faced thousands of failures. Do you think he did so with perfect certainty? Number. He faced doubt, disbelief, fatigue, fear that his efforts might never be rewarded. But he continued. Henry Ford defied the conventions of his time. He put forward ideas no one believed in, plans even his own engineers called impossible. Do you imagine he had no fear? He felt it, but he walked forward anyway. Abraham Lincoln led a broken nation through war. He carried the lives of a country on his shoulders. The weight was immense. He was betrayed, criticized, called a fool. Fear must have sat in his soul like a shadow, but he did not bow to it. He rose. You see, fear isn't the issue. Obedience to fear is. Napoleon Hill, in Outwitting the Devil, taught us something few are willing to confront. He said fear is hypnotic. It lulls men into paralysis. It convinces them to wait, to hesitate, to shrink. And it speaks in the voice of their own mind, so they believe it. They think the fear is rational, reasonable, safe. But in truth, fear is a liar dressed in logic. And the longer you listen, the stronger it becomes. Fear says you're not ready. Fear says you might fail. Fear says they'll laugh. Fear says, what if it all falls apart? And you listen, not because it's true, but because it's familiar. That's how fear works. It disguises itself as wisdom. But let me tell you something. No man ever reached greatness by being comfortable. And no man ever achieved mastery by waiting to be unafraid. You must learn the most important distinction of all. Fear is not a stop sign. It's a signal. Fear means you are at the edge of growth. It means you are standing at the boundary of who you've been and who you could become. It means the next step matters. That's why it terrifies you. Not because it's dangerous, but because it's powerful. So the moment you feel fear, you don't freeze. You step forward. That trembling is not weakness. It's the vibration of transformation. And the only way to walk through fear is to walk through fear. Let me say this to you as plainly as I can. If you're waiting for fear to go away before you take action, you will wait until your life has passed you by. The men who build empires, who shift industries, who write history, they are not unafraid. They are simply unwilling to be ruled by fear. That is the edge. That is the secret. You must feel fear and move anyway, because every time you act in the presence of fear, you shrink its power. You build courage. You create momentum. You send a signal to your subconscious that says, I no longer obey fear. I obey vision. And here's the strategy few talk about: exposure. You must expose yourself to fear daily, not recklessly, but intentionally. Speak up even when your voice shakes. Launch the idea even when it's not perfect. Have the hard conversation even when it makes you tremble. Say no when it's easier to say yes. Say yes when it would be safer to say no. These are the rituals of fear exposure. And the more you do it, the less power fear has. Think of fear like a muscle. If you don't stretch it, it tightens. If you avoid it, it grows stiff and controlling. But if you challenge it daily, consistently, it loosens its grip. Each time you act in the face of fear, you're not just doing the hard thing, you're training your nervous system to no longer freeze. You are rewiring your default state. At first, it will feel unnatural. You will feel the resistance, but keep going. The second time is easier. The 10th time is habit. The 100th time is freedom. You will wake up one day and fear will still whisper, but you won't flinch. You'll hear the lie and walk forward anyway, because by then you will have become the kind of man who does not bow to fear, but uses it. And that's the most important part. Fear becomes your fuel. It tells you where to go. It tells you what matters. It tells you where the edge is. And every time you step over that edge, you grow. So what is the daily ritual? It is this. Do one thing every day that scares you. Wake up and ask, where is my fear today? Then go there. Your fear will never leave, but neither will your mission. The question is, which one leads? Say this now. I am not fearless, but I do not obey fear. Fear does not decide my actions. I do. Repeat it. Let it echo. Let it become part of your identity. Because identity, not emotion, is what determines your future. Fear will still rise. It will visit again and again. But each time you choose courage, you break the spell. You end the hypnosis. And eventually, fear becomes background noise, still speaking, but never listened to. Let me tell you this with the full force of experience. Every breakthrough you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. Every dream you've buried, every move you've avoided, every goal you've postponed, it is all waiting behind that single decision to walk forward while afraid. So feel the fear, then walk forward anyway. Because the man who moves in the presence of fear becomes the man who fear cannot touch. Let's go deeper. Truth 7. Success is boring, repetitive, and unforgiving. What separates men isn't talent. It's tolerance for repetition. If you are still under the illusion that success is exciting, I am here to correct you, gently but firmly. Success is not fireworks. It is not applause. It is not inspiration or grand gestures. Success is repetition. It is rhythm. It is the steady, silent, relentless execution of simple principles done with precision over and over and over again. This truth is not popular. Men don't want to hear that the life they crave is built on boredom. They want to be lit on fire with motivation. They want the rush, the intensity, the drama. But the men who build lasting greatness, the men who endure, do so not through moments of hype, but through days, months, and years of unglamorous work. Let me say it as simply as I can. Success is boring. It is repetitive. It is unforgiving. And that is exactly why most men never reach it. They dabble. They flirt with their goals. They begin with fire. But as soon as the repetition sets in, as soon as the thrill fades, they drift. They abandon the routine. They search for a new goal, a new spark, a new hit of dopamine. But the man who stays, the man who commits to the rhythm, that man becomes unstoppable. Look to Thomas Edison. History remembers him for the light bulb, but few truly grasp how he achieved it. Edison did not stumble upon brilliance. He endured thousands of failures, not dramatic, spectacular ones, but tedious, methodical trials. Day after day, attempt after attempt. He didn't wait for inspiration. He worked until mastery became inevitable. You must understand this. Edison's genius was not his intelligence. It was his capacity to repeat, to tolerate the grind. That was his edge. Success is not a one-time action. It is the result of identity-based repetition. You must become the kind of man who does what must be done, not occasionally, not when he feels like it, but daily. That is why in Think and Grow Rich, I emphasized autosuggestion. Not because it's mystical, but because it is mechanical. The mind is a machine. It learns by exposure and repetition. Whatever you feed it consistently becomes your reality. The subconscious does not respond to variety. It responds to rhythm. So the question is simple. What are you repeating? Are you repeating weakness, excuses, hesitation? Or are you repeating bold action, clear affirmations, daily rituals? I've said this before and I will say it again. Every man becomes what he repeats, not what he wishes, not what he plans, but what he does daily. Your thoughts become beliefs, your beliefs become habits, and your habits become your identity. If your actions are scattered, your life will be scattered. If your rituals are inconsistent, your results will be inconsistent. But if your actions are rooted in discipline, if you wake up each day and move in alignment with your definite major purpose, then success is no longer optional. It becomes a mathematical certainty. Let us speak plainly. The path is not exciting. It is not varied. It is not filled with novelty. The path is narrow. It is dull. It is repetitive. And yet it is sacred, because every repetition is a vote for the man you are becoming. The greatest mistake you can make is waiting for motivation. Motivation is weak. It is fleeting. It disappears the moment you are tired, distracted, or discouraged. Discipline, on the other hand, is invincible. Discipline says, I do not need to feel like it. I do it because it is required. Discipline says, this is who I am, and therefore, this is what I do. Discipline is identity expressed through action, and identity is what transforms a man. Let me share something I observed in the lives of every great man I studied. They locked in their daily non-negotiables, not grand goals, not lofty aspirations, but small, consistent, disciplined habits that compounded into greatness. For Edison, it was experimentation. For Ford, it was production. For Lincoln, it was reflection and decision. Each had their rhythm. Each had their non-negotiables. And so must you. You must create a life built on the foundation of what must be done, regardless of how you feel. Wake at the same time. Write your definite chief aim daily. Speak your affirmations aloud, train your body, build your mind, review your mission. These are your bricks. Lay them every day, not for a week, not for a month, for life. Because repetition is not punishment, it is power. You must fall in love with the process, not for how it feels, but for what it makes you. The weights in the gym are heavy, but they shape you. The silence of study is quiet, but it sharpens you. The early mornings are cold, but they forge resilience. If you only move when it's easy, you'll never move far. But if you move through repetition, if you train your mind to show up regardless, you will go where few have ever gone. This is why I taught autosuggestion with such urgency. Repeat your affirmations, repeat your vision, repeat your actions, because repetition builds belief, and belief is the fuel of persistence. Every time you repeat your definite chief aim, your mind absorbs it more deeply. Every time you act in alignment with it, your subconscious records it. Until one day, without even thinking, you rise and move like the man you said you would become. That is the true goal of repetition, not behavior, but identity. You must become a man whose habits are stronger than his moods. You must become a man whose non-negotiables are not up for debate. You must become a man who does the work every day because that is who he is. Let me give you this image. Success is not a summit you reach. It is a hammer and chisel. Every day you strike the stone. Most days you see no result, no cracks, no applause. But then one day the stone splits, not because of the final blow, but because of the 1,000 before it. That's repetition. You are not here to feel good. You are here to become unstoppable. So write this truth into your mind. I do not seek excitement. I seek results. I do not wait to feel ready. I repeat until I become. That is how Edison changed the world. That is how Ford reshaped industry. That is how Lincoln stood firm in war, not by flashes of inspiration, but by the quiet, unwavering power of repetition. Now let us make it practical. Tool, lock in your daily non-negotiables. Pick 3 to 5 simple, powerful actions that align with your mission, and do them every single day. No exceptions, no debate. Examples: wake up at 5:30 a.m., read 10 pages of purpose-driven content. Recite your chief aim and affirmations out loud. Move your body for 30 minutes. Reflect in silence. These are not goals. These are standards. And you follow them, not because they are exciting, but because they are effective. Say it with me. I am not moved by boredom. I am not distracted by novelty. I repeat power until it becomes my nature. This is the man who rises. Not the man with the best plan, not the man with the most talent, but the man who can tolerate the grind longer than anyone else. Boredom does not break him. Repetition does not shake him. He knows that mastery is forged in the mundane. This, my friend, is the path, not wide, not easy, but certain. The men who win are the men who repeat. So start now, and tomorrow return again, and again, and again. Because the man who repeats rules. Truth 8, you will die, live like it. Every second you waste is stolen from the man you could have been. Let us speak plainly, not in metaphor, not in philosophy, but in fact. You, my friend, will die. This is not a threat. It is not a punishment. It is the single most certain truth of your existence. You will leave this world. One day your lungs will exhale for the final time. Your heart will beat its last rhythm. The clock will stop. And all that will remain is who you became and who you didn't. And most men do everything in their power to ignore this truth. They distract themselves, entertain themselves, numb themselves. They live as if they are immortal, as if their days are endless, as if they can delay purpose until later. But you are not most men. You are here now because something inside of you is waking up. A deeper awareness that time is not on your side. And that urgency, my friend, is a gift. It is life whispering, move. You see, death is not your enemy. Death is your clarity. Death is your compass. Death is the mirror that reveals what truly matters. Because when you stand at the edge of your life, and you will not care how many times you were liked, how comfortable you stayed, or how long you waited. You will care whether you finished the work, whether you lived in alignment with your calling, whether you fulfilled what you came here to do. Let me share with you something I have observed in every truly great man I studied. They were moved by urgency. Abraham Lincoln did not wait for a more peaceful time to lead. He acted because the nation was in crisis, because injustice was growing, because if he didn't move, no one would. Henry Ford did not wait for all the support to appear before creating an affordable automobile for every man. He moved because he knew the time was now or never. Thomas Edison did not wait for applause or guarantees. He pressed forward because the clock was ticking, and invention waits for no man. Each of them knew the same truth. You will die, and what you do before that moment defines everything. So ask yourself, are you living like a man who knows his time is short? Or are you living like one who thinks he has forever? You see, when you accept your mortality, not in fear, but in clarity, you begin to live differently. You stop tolerating excuses. You stop bowing to fear. You stop delaying the work that your soul is begging you to begin. Because you realize every hour wasted is one you will never get back. Every day lived in mediocrity is one less day lived in legacy. And let us make no mistake, most men die with regret. Regret for the words they never said. Regret for the dreams they never chased. Regret for the courage they never summoned. But you will not be that man, because you will remember this truth. The clock is running, and you have a mission. In Outwitting the Devil, I expose the greatest trick of the enemy of success. It is not pain, it is not poverty, it is not failure. It is delay, the whisper that says later. That whisper has destroyed more destinies than death ever has. It convinces men to drift, to wait for perfect conditions, to wait until they feel ready. But death is not waiting, time is not waiting, and neither should you. That is why I demand of you, live urgently, not frantically, not recklessly, but with deliberate intensity, with laser precision, with the weight of purpose in every step. Do not mistake this for anxiety. This is not fear-driven living. This is clarity-driven action. When you rise in the morning, remember, this is not just another day. It is one of a limited number. You don't know how many you have left, but you know they are not infinite. So treat them as sacred. Speak with truth. Work with fire. Train your mind like it matters, because it does. Build something that will outlive you, and let every action say, I do not waste life. Because life, my friend, is not short. It's just poorly used. You will find that most people are not lacking time. They are drowning in distraction. They are busy, but not productive. They are moving, but not progressing. You must not follow them. You must discipline your time like your life depends on it, because it does. Every hour you spend in drift and hesitation and comfort is an hour stolen from the man you are becoming. And that man, the one you were designed to be, is waiting for you to decide. Let us make it practical now. Daily ritual, the mortality mirror. Each morning, look yourself in the eye and ask, if today were my last, would I move differently? Would I waste time on nonsense? Would I hold back my words? Would I delay the work? And then live accordingly. Let death sharpen your clarity. Let it strip away the trivial. Let it expose what truly matters. Because when you remember that your time is limited, you begin to focus on what is essential. You speak with more fire. You act with more conviction. You love with more intention. And you refuse to allow fear, delay, or doubt to steal another day. This is the attitude of every man who rises. You do not rise by chance. You rise by choice. And you must choose every single day to treat your life as if it matters, because it does. Do not drift through your days like they are infinite. Do not play small, hoping for comfort. Do not bury your gifts just because no one is watching. Live boldly. Live deliberately. Live like the clock is ticking, because it is. Say this now with fire in your voice. I will not die with my work undone. I will not leave this earth as a whisper. I will finish what I came here to do. That, my friend, is the posture of the uncommon man. He does not fear death. He uses it. He does not avoid the end. He lets it shape the middle. He does not waste his life waiting for more time. He wakes up and lives. This truth, Truth 8, is not here to scare you. It is here to liberate you. Because when you finally accept that your time is limited, you are free. Free to speak, free to build, free to chase what matters, free to rise. You do not have forever, but you do have now. So start, move, decide. And when your final moment comes, may you meet it with peace, not regret, because you lived like a man who knew. This moment could be the last, and that is what made you powerful. Truth 9. Pain is the price of transformation. Nothing worthwhile is ever gained without sacrifice. Let us get something absolutely clear. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the price. It is the currency with which every man purchases his transformation. Whether you seek wealth, strength, love, leadership, clarity, or purpose, it will not come without resistance, without hardship, without struggle. Every ounce of growth, every inch of expansion will demand something from you. You must trade comfort for courage. You must trade ease for effort. You must trade who you are for who you could become. And that trade, it hurts. It hurts to let go of who you've been. It hurts to see old beliefs die. It hurts to watch familiar identities fall away. It hurts to do the work when no one applauds. It hurts to show up on the days when you feel nothing inside but fatigue, emptiness, or doubt. But that pain, listen to me, that pain is sacred. It is the fire in which your potential is forged. In Think and Grow Rich, I told you of men like Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times before lighting the world. Did you think those failures came without pain, without nights of doubt, without ridicule and pressure and internal storms? No, my friend, they paid in full. Henry Ford, too, was mocked, resisted, and told that his dreams were foolish, but he paid the price in pain and kept going anyway. He understood what most never will. If you are unwilling to suffer for your vision, you will never hold it in your hands. This is not poetic, this is practical. You want to transform, then you must suffer. Not forever, but for long enough to prove that you're serious, long enough to rewire your mind, long enough to outlast the version of you that would have quit. Because transformation is war. It is war between the man you've always been and the man you are becoming. And war is not won without cost. You will bleed. You will fall. You will feel the sting of sacrifice. But it is better to suffer for purpose than to suffer for nothing. Because that's the other side of this coin. You will suffer either way. Suffer in regret or suffer in pursuit, suffer in hesitation, or suffer in discipline. Suffer by watching your dreams die, or suffer by doing what it takes to keep them alive. Choose your pain. In Outwitting the Devil, I expose the trick that steals greatness from men. The devil does not destroy your life with fire and fury. He destroys it with comfort. He whispers, "Take it easy. You've done enough. This hurts too much. Quit." And the moment you listen, the transformation stops. But the men who rise, the men who change the world, they welcome the pain. They know that behind every difficult step is a new strength being born. Every rep in the gym, every late night with no reward, every rejection and every mistake, every failure, every hour of silence when no one believes in them. That's the transformation. That's the work. And let me tell you something personal. Every time I faced pain on my path, every time I thought it might break me, it was never the end. It was the beginning of something greater. I look back now and see that every test was actually a gift, because pain has a purpose. It reveals your limits. It burns away the lies. It humbles the ego. It silences distraction. And it leaves behind one thing, truth. So do not curse the pain. Bless it. It is the only honest teacher left in this world. Most men will run from it. They will avoid the fire, never knowing that inside that fire was the version of themselves they always wanted to become. But not you. You were built for this. You were built to endure. You were built to evolve. And you must remind yourself of this every single day. When the pain shows up, and it will, you do not retreat. You lean in. Say it out loud. I do not run from pain. I rise through it. I do not fear discomfort. I become something new because of it. Let those words guide your posture. Let them hold your back straight when the weight gets heavy. Because on the other side of this pain is the life you were meant to live. This is the trade. This is the price, and every man must pay it. So stop asking, why is this so hard? And start asking, who am I becoming because of this? Because that is the question that leads to power. And in that answer, you will find your transformation. Truth 10. Your weaknesses will destroy you if you don't kill them first. What you tolerate will eventually take everything from you. Let us now face one of the most dangerous, most ignored, and most destructive truths a man will ever encounter. Your weaknesses, if left unchecked, will ruin everything you build. They do not sleep, they do not vanish, they do not stay small. Weakness is not innocent, it is patient, it waits quietly. It hides behind your habits, your excuses, your justifications. It pretends to be manageable until one day it is not. And by the time most men notice, the damage has already been done. Their wealth gone, their focus shattered, their family torn, their dreams buried beneath years of unconscious drift. Why? Because they tolerated what should have been terminated. They coped with what should have been confronted. They excused what should have been executed. In Outwitting the Devil, I wrote with clarity, the devil does not destroy men with force. He destroys them by appealing to their weaknesses. And those weaknesses, they are not always loud. In fact, they are often seductive. Comfort disguised as coping. Indulgence disguised as reward. Hesitation disguised as strategy. Laziness tells you to rest, but it's preparing your ruin. Lust whispers pleasure, but it's laying the trap. Anger feels righteous, but it's fracturing everything you care about. Envy feels justified, but it's poisoning your focus. Excuses sound reasonable, but they are silent assassins of destiny. If you do not kill these things, they will kill your future. Do not misunderstand me. Every man has weakness, even the strongest men you've ever known. Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Lincoln. They were not immune to temptation or fatigue. They were human. But they made a decision, a fierce, non-negotiable decision. I will not let my weaknesses rule me. That is the decision you must make now. Because what you tolerate, you teach your mind to accept, and what your mind accepts, your identity will follow. Weakness is not just a condition, it is a cancer. And like all cancers, it must be cut out early, or it will grow until it consumes you. So let me be clear. You do not manage weakness. You kill it. You do not negotiate with the voice that says, skip today. You do not reason with the desire that pulls you off your path. You do not journal your way out of envy or delay. You hunt it. You expose it. You shine a floodlight on the shadows within and say, I see you. You don't belong here, and I will not allow you to stay. This is not about guilt. It's about power. It's about taking back control of your own mind. In Law of Success, I taught the necessity of self-analysis. You must study your own patterns as if your life depends on it, because it does. You must know your tendencies, your vices, your blind spots. You must keep a journal, not of your dreams, but of your weaknesses. Track them, identify them, pinpoint their triggers, and then crush them with ruthless consistency. This is how you build a fortress of the mind, one brick at a time. Brick by brick, focus, self-honesty, discipline, introspection, accountability, until the temptations of the world cannot get in, until weakness has no foothold left. And it begins with a decision. You must declare from this moment forward, I don't hide from my weaknesses, I hunt them. Repeat it. Say it every morning, every night, every time you feel the urge to drift or delay. That affirmation, it is not a motivational line, it is a sword. Because in this battle, your weakness is armed. And if you show up unprepared, if you show up with maybe or someday or just this once, you will lose. And the cost is everything you could have been. Let us remember the example of Henry Ford. The man faced betrayal, lawsuits, sabotage. But what made him invincible was not the strength of his car, but the strength of his character. He did not tolerate weakness in himself or in others. He operated with a clear code. He knew that indulgence weakens production. He knew that self-control builds empires. So he trained his mind like a machine. You must do the same. Set standards so high that your weakness cannot reach them. Set habits so strong that your lesser self suffocates in the presence of your discipline. Build a life where excuses cannot breathe. And remember this, you don't need to be perfect. but you must be relentless. You don't need to eliminate every flaw in one day, but you must fight every single day, because weakness waits for your laziness. It grows in your silence, it multiplies in your delay, and it will take everything from you if you don't kill it first. So make the choice now, draw the line, stand tall in your own mind, and say with finality, I will no longer tolerate what weakens me. I will no longer be seduced by what sabotages me. I will not let the enemy within take the crown I was born to wear. This is your moment of separation between the man you were and the man who can no longer be broken. Because once you've slain your weaknesses, there is nothing left to stop you. And the world will have no choice but to rise when you do. If you've made it this far, then you already know the truth. This isn't just another speech. This is not entertainment. This is transformation, but only if you choose to install it. These truths are not suggestions. They are laws. And the harshest truth of all is this: nothing changes until you do. Nothing sticks until you decide to repeat it. Nothing becomes permanent until you take these words and carve them into your subconscious with discipline, emotion, and time. You've now heard what most men never hear. You've seen what most men never face. And now you stand at the crossroads. You can close this message and walk back to the man you used to be. Or you can return to this speech again and again until it becomes who you are. Let me remind you, repetition is reprogramming. This is not philosophy, it's neuroscience, it's psychology, it's reality. You do not rise by hearing the truth once, you rise by rehearsing it daily. Your current identity, the one you wish to leave behind, was built the same way. It was shaped by repeated thoughts, repeated excuses, repeated self-talk, repeated habits. And if those repetitions built the old you, then new ones can build the unshakable you. You must feed your mind new truths again and again until the old patterns starve to death. This is the rhythm of mastery, the ritual of elevation. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Autosuggestion, the deliberate emotional repetition of belief, is the master key. You want power, you must speak it. You want certainty, you must feel it. You want identity, you must repeat it every single day. Because your subconscious mind does not obey wishes, it obeys instructions, and only the ones that are repeated with enough force, emotion, and consistency to override everything else. Let me ask you, what do you think built men like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie, Charles M. Schwab? Do you believe they simply got lucky? Do you believe they stumbled into success because of a good idea? They did not stumble. They installed. They didn't just have ideas. They had instructions repeated so often that doubt had no room left to breathe. Henry Ford repeated belief when no one else believed. Edison repeated vision through 10,000 failures. Carnegie repeated discipline until he became steel himself. Schwab repeated action until the world couldn't ignore him. These men rehearsed themselves into greatness. And you must do the same. You must become the architect of your own mind. You must decide what gets repeated, and then do it again and again and again until it's all that remains. Because here is the truth no one will tell you. The world is not designed to build your greatness. It is designed to distract it, to water down your edge and to tempt you into comfort, to make you forget who you are and what you're here to build. And the only way to push back, the only way to reclaim your mind, your identity, your destiny, is through repetition backed by emotion, discipline, and decision. Not once, not when it's convenient, but daily, relentlessly. You must return to these truths the same way a warrior returns to his weapon. You sharpen them, you swing them, you become deadly with them. Because let me remind you one final time, this speech is not a single event. It is a seed, and repetition is the water. Water it once and it dies. Water it daily and it becomes unshakable oak. You've heard the 10 truths. You've been shown the laws that separate men who drift from men who build. But none of that matters unless you choose to install it. So here is your final challenge. Don't move on. Return, revisit, recommit every single day until the old voice is gone, until the doubt no longer whispers, until the hesitation can no longer find your name, until the man you used to be is unrecognizable. And when you walk into the world with that new identity, when others wonder how you changed, when they ask what happened, you'll know the answer. You didn't change overnight. You changed every night. You didn't listen once. You listened until it became your nature. You didn't get lucky. You got disciplined. So plant your flag, not in hype, but in repetition, in ritual, in rhythm. You are no longer a man ruled by emotion. You are no longer a man led by fear. You are no longer a man who drifts. You are a man who commands, who acts, who repeats his vision until it becomes his identity.